Out on the wide, windswept prairie, danger doesn't always come with gunfire. It comes quiet, wearing a neighbor's smile, knocking on your door when the sun goes down. For 6 months, Calder Nash thought he'd hired a widow in need of work and shelter. Evelyn Boone cooked his meals kept to herself and never asked for more than silence in return. But Bruises have a way of telling their own stories, and when a shadow from her past rode up to the fence line watching but never crossing, Calder realized the real battle wasn't out on the range, it was already here. What started as a rancher's quiet life would turn into a fight for a child with no name, a woman with nowhere left to run, and a promise forged in gun smoke and grit that no one would take from them again. This isn't just survival. This is a stand. The skillet hissed like a copperhead disturbed under a rock, sharp, angry, alive. Evelyn Boone didn't flinch. She simply reached for the cast-iron handle and nudged the flame lower. Her sleeves, as always, had slipped down her forearms, exposing a bloom of purple and yellow bruises where soft skin should have been. Across the kitchen table, Calder Nash saw it, and for the first time in 6 months, he didn't look away. Evelyn didn't offer explanation. She just tugged her sleeve back and placed a tin plate of biscuits down before him. "You want more coffee?" she asked, her voice steady but distant. Calder's reply came slow, almost distracted. "You're burning the bottoms." "They're just crisp," she countered. "You like crisp." But the biscuits weren't the thing scorching. It was the silence. And it wasn't new. She'd worked at his ranch half a year now, came recommended by a neighbor who'd said she was a widow in need of a roof and routine. Calder needed help, and she needed quiet. That was the deal. No questions. No stories. Just chores done right, and meals on time. Until now. Calder Nash had seen death. Buried his wife before winter thawed. Lost a child before he ever held it. Since then, he'd learned to keep his hands busy and his heart numb. Evelyn fit neatly into that silence. She cooked. She cleaned. She disappeared into rooms without asking for anything. But bruises don't lie, and her face was learning to forget how to smile. That evening, as she poured him a second cup, he noticed the way she winced when the ceramic rim touched her wrist. Another mark, another story untold. He didn't speak until she turned away. Who did that? Her hands stilled, but she didn't look back. "It's nothing. I ain't blind, Evelyn. And you ain't clumsy. So I'll ask again who put hands on you." For a moment, the only sound in the room was the tick of the old regulator clock and the sigh of wind through the cottonwoods outside. When she finally turned, her eyes held no panic, no rage, just the exhaustion of someone who'd learned not to hope. "Don't matter," she whispered. "It's done." "No, it ain't," Calder said, pushing his chair back. The scrape of wood against pine floor was loud in the stillness. "It keeps happening, doesn't it?" Her arms folded across her chest, not in defiance, but as if holding herself in place. "You hired me to cook Mr. Nash. That's what I do. Let me keep doing it." "But you're not just cooking," he replied. "You're flinching when the wind bangs the shutters, sleeping in late, keeping gloves on when you shell peas. I see it now, Evelyn. I didn't want to, but I do." She looked away then toward the hearth where flame shadows flickered against the stone. "Ain't your concern? You got family?" She hesitated. "None worth counting." "Then you're alone." Her jaw tightened. "Been that way a long while?" He took a step closer, not to threaten, not to touch, just enough for her to feel he wasn't walking away. "Well, you ain't anymore," he said. "Not unless you want to be." Something cracked in her expression, like a frozen river shifting beneath the first warmth of spring. Her lip trembled, but she caught it before it broke. He didn't press. just turned and walked out the back door into the dusk. Outside, the cattle were settling and the horizon was bruised with the last red of day. That night, Calder didn't sleep. He heard her in the kitchen after midnight, the clink of dishes, the soft scrape of a chair. When he cracked the bedroom door, he saw her peeling an apple in the dark. A scarf was wrapped around her wrist. She wasn't crying. She just sat there, slowly slicing away the bruised skin, like she was trying to remove something deeper than rot. He closed the door again, not because he didn't care, but because he finally did. The next morning came in soft shades of gray and gold, the kind of sky that made the prairie look endless and a little more forgiving. Calder Nash was already outside by the time Evelyn Boone stirred. He didn't sleep much these days, but last night had been different. His mind hadn't gone still the way it usually did when the stars came out. It paced, circled, unsettled. All night long it chewed on what he'd seen on her wrist and what she didn't say about it. She moved about the kitchen with her usual quiet efficiency, but something had shifted. Her movements were a little too precise, like she was trying to move without being noticed inside her own skin. Her smile, when it came, was polite, fragile, the kind of smile you wear for strangers, not the man who pays you weekly and shares your table twice a day. Calder watched from the porch as she hung laundry near the barn. The sun was barely over the ridge, and the air still held the bite of last night's cold. Evelyn's sleeves were tugged low despite the heat building already. Every few steps she paused not to rest, but to look behind her over her shoulder toward the split-trail fence and the woods beyond it, like something might step out from between the trees and reclaim her. Later that day, while he was hammering the eastern gate back into place, Calder noticed wagon ruts fresh, narrow and deep. Not from his own cart. They cut in from the south side near the pantry window, then curled back out toward the road. No dust had settled in the tracks yet, which meant whoever came had come after sundown and left before dawn. That tightened something in his gut. He walked into the house without wiping his boots and found Evelyn kneeling near the hearth, scrubbing the floorboards with lye water. Her sleeves had slipped again. Faint bruises ran from her forearms to the bend of her elbow, some old, some not. He crouched beside her, his voice low. "Someone's been here." She didn't look up, just the wind. No. Wagon tracks. Deep ones. They came close, too close. Near the pantry window. Her hand paused on the brush. A moment passed, then another. "He won't stop," she said finally. "He never does. Doesn't matter how far I run." Calder's hands curled into fists without meaning to. "What's his name?" She kept scrubbing. "Silas Vane." The name didn't ring familiar, but the way her voice twisted around it that did. It was the same tone Calder had heard years ago when his neighbor's daughter came home broken and quiet and never told the whole truth. "You want me to go to the sheriff?" he asked. Evelyn's reaction was immediate, sharp, and full of alarm. She looked at him then fully for the first time since she came to his ranch. "No," she said, voice hard. "The law doesn't protect people like me. Not from men like him. He's got money, charm, influence. He plays churchgoer when it suits him. Donates to charities, shakes hands at Sunday service. The sheriff won't raise a finger." Calder stood, jaw clenched. "Then maybe it's time someone did." "You don't even know me," she said, rising to her feet, the scrub brush forgotten. "No," he admitted. "But I know what it feels like to bury someone you love and lie awake every night wondering if you could have stopped it. I ain't watching that happen again." She looked at him, really looked. And though her body still stood like a wall, her eyes wavered. It wasn't love. It wasn't even trust. It was something more raw than either recognition. Two people carrying different weights that somehow fit together. That evening she made stew. She didn't say much, but she placed his bowl down gently, and Calder noticed her hands had stopped trembling. He didn't ask questions. He didn't offer promises. He just ate quietly and made sure the shotgun near the door was cleaned and loaded. Neither of them saw the shadow at the edge of the trees, but someone had been watching. The next morning brought wind and dust and a peculiar stillness that sat wrong on Calder's shoulders. Evelyn handed him coffee like always, but her grip was tighter on the cup, and her eyes darted toward the window more often than not. That silence between them, it wasn't peace anymore. It was pressure, like a storm waiting to speak. Calder spent most of the day mending fences, fixing shutters, and checking every gate latch twice. He wasn't afraid, not of Silas, not of the shadows, but he knew something was coming, and this time he wouldn't be caught unprepared. At dusk, Evelyn walked the line between the coop and the kitchen with a basket of eggs tucked under her arm. She was halfway to the porch when she froze, not from noise but from memory. Calder followed her gaze. A rider, slow and deliberate, moved down the trail. Black horse, dark coat, a man who didn't rush because men like him knew fear went ahead of them like a scout. Evelyn turned around and walked back into the house. Calder met her at the door. "That him?" he asked. She nodded, pale. "He always comes just close enough, never crosses the fence, just watches." Calder stepped onto the porch, pulled the shotgun down from its mount beside the doorframe, and checked the chamber. "He don't look so big from here." "He's not," Evelyn whispered. "But he don't need to be." The rider stopped at the fence, stared long enough to let them know he'd been there, then turned back into the tree line without a word. That night Calder didn't sleep again. Neither did she. The night they rode toward Silas Vane's property, the sky hung low with smoke-tinted clouds, and the land ahead unfolded in shades of ash and warning. Calder Nash sat high in the saddle, his jaw rigid, his thoughts sharper than the cold iron at his side. Beside him rode Jed Holloway, the one-eyed ex-ranger, who spoke little but missed even less. Behind them, Evelyn Boone wore Calder's old duster, too large in the shoulders and fraying at the cuffs, but she sat straight in the saddle, her hair pinned under a hat, her eyes steady. They weren't riding for revenge. Not exactly. This was something quieter, deadlier. A mission rooted in mercy. Silas's ranch near Delmar Creek rose like a scar against the hills. A barn too new, a stone house too clean, a fence coiled with barbed wire, tall and smug, as if daring the world to try crossing it. Calder had seen it all before, men who built fortresses not out of pride, but fear of being found out. They waited until dusk slipped its fingers across the pasture and painted the land in forgiving shadow. Jed peeled off toward the west perimeter, vanishing into timber and sagebrush. Calder and Evelyn approached from the north where the land sloped gently and the wind carried fewer echoes. No lights burned in the barn, but they moved with caution, all the same boots barely brushing the dry ground. They reached the far side of the structure when Evelyn froze mid-step. Her hand gripped Calder's sleeve. "Did you hear that she whispered?" He nodded. "Inside." A soft whimper, faint and hollow, like someone crying with no voice left. Calder moved toward a knothole in the barn's siding and peered in. His breath caught. A girl couldn't be older than 8, curled into herself on a pile of hay, chained at the ankle like an animal. A dog lay beside her ribs, showing eyes, watching. The child's head tilted toward the noise, but she didn't move, as if stillness might spare her. Sweet Lord Calder muttered. Evelyn pushed past him before he could stop her. "We're going in." The barn door creaked open slow. The dog growled at first, but quieted as soon as Evelyn knelt beside it. The girl flinched instinctively, shielding her face with both arms. She didn't scream. She didn't speak, just folded tighter like something preparing for the worst. Evelyn didn't touch her, didn't rush. She sat down on the hay, gently folding her skirt beneath her knees. "I know what it feels like," she said softly. "To be left here, to wait in the dark. But we're not here to hurt you." The girl didn't respond, but her arms slowly lowered. Her eyes, wide and too old for her years, flicked between Evelyn and Calder. Calder crouched beside the chain. "I got a tool in my saddlebag," he whispered. "Won't take but a moment." The dog sniffed Calder's hand and gave a single low whine, less warning, more permission. As Calder worked the bolt cutter into place, Evelyn continued talking soft, steady, like she was pouring water on scorched earth. "You got a name, sweetheart?" she asked. No answer, just the faintest shake of the head. Calder snipped the chain with one clean snap. The girl didn't bolt. She just sat there blinking, like she couldn't quite believe freedom was possible. Evelyn reached forward then slowly and held out her hand. "You don't have to go. You just have to come with me." After a long beat, the girl reached back. The moment they stepped outside, a voice rang out clear and cruel. "Well, now this is a sight." Silas Vane stood at the barn entrance, rifle in one hand, a torch in the other. Two men flanked him, both armed, neither brave enough to smile. "You came back, Evelyn." Silas set his grin a slash in the firelight. "I always knew you would, like a moth to a flame." Evelyn pulled the girl behind her hand, instinctively reaching for the revolver at her hip. Calder stood tall beside her, calm, ready. "You let her go," Calder said, voice even, "and you walk away." Silas laughed. "You think this is your story now, rancher? You think standing next to her makes you something righteous?" Before Calder could reply, a sharp whistle sliced through the air. A single rifle shot followed, clean, precise. The torch in Silas's hand exploded in sparks. He yelped, staggering back, shoulder singed by the bullet's graze. Jed Holloway stepped out from the shadows behind them, rifle still raised, one eye gleaming beneath the brim of his weathered hat. "Next shot's not a warning," he said. Silas's bravado cracked. His smirk faltered. "I didn't come here to fight," he said, backing a step. "You came here to own people," Jed replied. "But your receipts are burning." Silas sneered at Calder. "You're playing hero, but you don't even know what she is. That little girl, she ain't clean. She's been passed around. You don't get to save her. She's not broken." Evelyn snapped, stepping forward. "And she doesn't belong to anyone." The girl clung to her coat fingers, buried in the fabric. "You going to shoot me over a girl with no name?" Silas asked. Calder didn't blink. "No. I'm going to bury you over the next word you say." Silas didn't call the bluff. He stepped back, mount waiting nearby. He climbed on and spat toward the dust. "This ain't over." "No," Jed said. "But you are." They didn't watch him ride off. They didn't have to. The air had shifted. The threat had passed for now. Back at the ranch, Evelyn cleaned the girl's feet and gave her a dress that used to be hers when she was young. The girl didn't speak. Not until later that night, when Evelyn tucked her into a makeshift cot near the hearth and asked again, "What's your name, sweetheart?" A pause. Then, "They used to call me Delilah," the girl whispered. "But I don't think that's my real name." Evelyn's heart cracked open. "That's all right," she said. "We'll find it again." And just like that, the child closed her eyes for the first time in a place where no one would hurt her for falling asleep. Peace, Evelyn had learned, was a fragile thing. It came quietly like dew on grass, present only until someone stepped too hard. For a few weeks, the ranch felt like it belonged to them again. She cooked without flinching. Calder whistled while mending fences. And the girl, Delilah, though she still hadn't confirmed whether the name was truly hers, began to laugh. Just a little. just enough to remind them that healing sometimes came in crooked notes and quiet mornings. But then came the envelope. It was nailed to the fence post out near the east gate, stark white against the weathered wood. Evelyn had spotted it while walking to the barn with a basket of washed linens. Her heart kicked. No stamp, no wax seal, just her name in tight black ink. She tore it down and unfolded the page. No greeting, just 6 words, sharp as a slap. "You're not worth dying for, Evelyn." There was no signature, but the tone was unmistakable. Silas Vane was still out there, and he was still watching. Calder found her sitting on the porch with the note gripped in both hands, her shoulders stiff, her face unreadable. "He's trying to get inside your head," he said. "He never really left," she answered. From that moment on, the air around the ranch grew different, not loud or chaotic, just charged, like thunderclouds gathering behind the mountains. Calder doubled the patrol of the outer fence. He wired Jed Holloway again, requesting backup if needed. The young ranch hand, Noah, was told to keep a firearm on the porch and to sleep near the dog. And Delilah, though she still wouldn't call Evelyn Mama out loud, began waking in the middle of the night, sitting up with eyes wide open and whispering about shadows in the hallway. One morning, Evelyn found the dog's bowl untouched. He never missed breakfast. Calder searched the whole property along the tree line, under the coop, even in the dry creek bed where he sometimes wandered. Nothing, until nightfall when they heard the faint clang of the well pulley out back. Together, Calder and Evelyn approached the well, their boots sinking into damp earth. Tied to the post beside it was the dog alive, but muzzled with a rag, his eyes wide with silent fear. Hanging from the rope that led down into the well was another note. This one read, "She's not yours." That night, they moved Delilah into their bedroom. Evelyn laid a cot between their bed and the fireplace, keeping the girl within arm's reach. The child didn't question it. She simply crawled beneath the quilt and clutched Evelyn's hand with quiet intensity. The days blurred after that. Evelyn tried to maintain a rhythm stew at noon bread rising by dusk, but her eyes never stopped scanning the edges of windows. She stirred pots with the shotgun resting near her ankle. Calder made no attempt to talk her out of it. He kept his own rifle nearby, often standing by the front porch after supper, silent eyes toward the dark. Then came the third message. This one arrived tucked beneath the front door before dawn. Evelyn found it while sweeping. It was short. Not a threat this time. Something worse. She remembers. And soon, so will you. That night, Evelyn didn't sleep. She sat by the hearth, twisting her fingers in her lap, her breathing shallow. Calder joined her without speaking. He didn't ask questions. He didn't need to. The weight in the room was already speaking loud enough. "She's remembering something," Evelyn said at last. "But I don't know if she's ready." "She's not alone," Calder replied. Later, when Evelyn checked on the girl, she found her sitting upright in bed, staring at the wall. The quilt had fallen to the floor. "Mama," she whispered. That word still caught Evelyn off guard. "Yes, sweetheart. He came back last night." Evelyn's breath caught. "In a dream," the girl nodded. "He had white hair and a belt. He locked me in a room once, no windows. Said if I told he'd take my voice." Evelyn sat beside her, wrapping the child in her arms. "You're safe now. He can't hurt you here. But he said he left something behind," she whispered. "Something bad." The next morning, Calder rode into town. While he loaded his saddle with seed and dry goods to keep up appearances, his real destination was Sheriff Whitlow's office. He laid it all out, every letter, every bruise, every appearance of Silas's men. The sheriff rubbed his jaw, eyes narrowed. "You're saying there's another man now?" Someone different than Vane Calder nodded. White hair, clean boots, keeps to the shadows. Might be the one who had the girl before Silas. She says he's the one who locked her up. Whitlow swore under his breath. I'll check stage records. Might be able to find out who passed through these parts recently. Back at the ranch, Evelyn watched the road like a hawk. Her hands moved out of habit kneading dough-cleaning lamps, but her heart beat in a pattern of alarms. Delilah clung to the dog again, and Noah stayed close to the barn watching the ridge with a pair of borrowed binoculars. 3 days passed. Then the knock came. It was soft, purposeful, measured. Evelyn stood frozen in the kitchen flour on her hands. Calder crossed the floor in 3 strides and opened the door. 3 men stood outside, dust-covered, travel-worn, and dangerous. "We're looking for a man named Silas Vane," the tallest said. His voice was like gravel, his eyes like chipped glass. "He's not here," Calder replied flatly. The man smiled. "Then maybe you can help us. He owes us something. A little girl, about this high." He gestured low. "She's ours. Sold fair." Evelyn stepped into the doorway before Calder could speak. "She's not anyone's," she said. The man's smile widened. "You think paperwork changes what's been done?" "No," Evelyn replied. "But fire does." And as she raised the shotgun, the dog growled from behind her. The men didn't flinch, but they didn't step forward either. Not yet. Not until the next move. Not until the next message. Because war had not been declared. But war had come. The night came on like a threat, slow, watchful, thick with warning, the kind of night the land itself seemed to hold its breath for. Calder Nash sat by the window rifle across his lap, Boots' still-laced eyes fixed on the tree line. Evelyn Boone was in the back room with Delilah No May now. That's what the girl had whispered the day before, holding the frayed blue ribbon they'd found in the lining of her dress. "My name was May," she'd said quiet as dusk before he took it from me. Evelyn had nearly dropped to her knees when she heard it. Now that truth felt like both a gift and a reckoning. They had reclaimed the girl's name, but her past hadn't let go. It started with a whistle. One long, drawn-out note that cut through the still air like a bone saw. Not the kind you used to call for a dog. This was something older, meaner. Calder stood, moved to the porch, and scanned the dark. The dog beside him growled, low teeth barely visible under graying lips. A second whistle followed. Then silence. Evelyn came to the doorway, shotgun in hand. May peeked from behind her, clutching the hem of her mother's skirt. Then a voice came from beyond the shadows. Calm, casual, venom in every vowel. "I've come for what's mine." Calder stepped forward, his voice cutting clean through the dark. "You're not getting anything from this house, except a warning." The voice didn't waver. "You think she forgot? But she remembers me now. Don't you, little bird?" May let out a small, whimpering sound. Evelyn turned and lifted her into her arms without a word, holding her close enough that the child's breath fluttered against her collarbone. "She's mine," the voice said again, "and she's always known it. Step onto my land," Calder called out, "and I'll make sure you never speak again." From the edge of the yard, a figure stepped into view. Tall, white hair glowing like ghost light under the rising moon. No weapon in hand, just that awful calm, the kind that makes honest men reach for iron. "You don't know what she is," the man said, taking another step. Calder didn't flinch. "I know what she's not yours." And then it happened. A clink of metal behind the barn. Another sound near the chicken coop. Shadows moved fast, coordinated. They weren't alone. Calder fired the first shot, sending a warning blast into the dirt near the white-haired man's boots. At the same time, the dog lunged from the porch, launching into one of the shadows by the well. Screams followed. Evelyn ducked into the house, May in her arms, barricading the front door with the dining table and grabbing extra shells from the pantry drawer. The house erupted with noise, gunfire boots pounding on wood glass, shattering as a window gave way. But they didn't run. Not this time. They held. Calder fell back from the porch, reloading fast, dropping one of the intruders with a clean shot to the leg. The man collapsed in the dirt, crying out for someone named Bates. No one answered. Another figure rushed the kitchen window and caught a blast of buckshot from Evelyn. He fell without a sound. In the eye of the storm, May huddled beneath a quilt. The dog returned to her side, tail low, but still wagging. Evelyn knelt beside her, brushing hair from her face. "You're okay," she whispered. "You're not alone." Outside, the final figure approached again. The white-haired man, untouched, calm, slow. "You think killing my men changes anything?" he called. She was sold. "Paperwork or not, she belongs to me." "No," Calder growled. "She was stolen, like everything else you ever touched. You think you're a hero? I think I'm a man who won't let cowards win." Then from the ridge another shot rang out, sharp, high, deliberate. The white-haired man spun, blood spraying from his shoulder. He staggered, stunned. Jed Holloway emerged from the darkness, rifle still warm coat billowing in the wind. "Next one's your heart," the old ranger called. "You won't get a third." The man fell to his knees, gasping his composure, cracking like old porcelain. She remembers, he hissed. She remembers what she did. "You mean what you did to her?" Jed said, his voice like gravel. "She was 5. You're the sin here." Calder stepped forward, rifle lowered but ready. "You're done." The man collapsed fully, then pain overtaking pride. Calder looked down at him and felt nothing. No victory, no relief. Just an ache deep in his chest for every girl who never got rescued. Sheriff Whitlow arrived 20 minutes later, breathless and armed. His deputies cuffed the wounded men, tied their horses, and loaded the white-haired man onto a wagon. He'd live. That was a mercy not many would have offered. "You protected your family," Whitlow told Calder. "I didn't do it alone," he replied. That night the ranch was silent once again, but it wasn't peace. May didn't speak as Evelyn bathed her, dressed her in fresh clothes, and tucked her into bed. But before sleep came, she whispered, "He said he left something behind. He said he wasn't done." Evelyn didn't respond. She just held her close. As the fire burned low in the hearth, Calder sat across from them, staring into the flames. "If he left anything else behind," he said, "we'll find it. Together." May's voice came from the dark, small, but steady. "His name wasn't my real daddy's. He lied. My mama, she had brown hair. She used to sing to me. I remember now." Evelyn's heart cracked open once more. She brushed the child's hair back and kissed her forehead. "She's still with you," she said. "She never left." Outside, wind moved through the trees like breath over old wounds. The kind that might never fully close, but with enough warmth might stop bleeding. Inside the house, firelight danced across tired faces, and in that small glow with ash in the hearth and blood on the soil outside, a vow took root, not spoken, but known. No one would ever take May again. Spring came like forgiveness, soft, steady, and a little uncertain at first. The frost melted fast that year, and the land around Calder Nash's ranch blushed green before most folks expected it. Evelyn Boone stood barefoot in the garden beds one morning, dirt soft between her toes, a pie dish in one hand, and a content kind of ache in her back, just beyond the fence. Mayrose Harper once, Delilah, once a nameless shadow in a barn, chased a chicken across the grass, giggling through tangled strands of hair, a book still tucked under her other arm. The chicken escaped as always, but May didn't cry. She just dropped into the grass and started reading aloud, her lips moving to the rhythm of her memory. From the porch, Calder watched them both with quiet amusement, saddle slung over one shoulder, hammer in the other. He wasn't really fixing anything, The eastern gate had been mended weeks ago, but he liked the pretending. It gave him an excuse to stay close. They were a family now, not because anyone signed a paper or said vows under a church steeple, though those things had come simple and sincere, but because they'd fought for it, because they had bled and knelt and stayed, because when the darkness came, they didn't run. They held the line. The house had changed too. The porch had new white railings, and the curtains in May's bedroom window danced with the breeze. Inside the walls bore crayon drawings, sunflowers, chickens, horses, and 3 people holding hands under a sky full of stars. In one drawing, Calder had a gray beard and a crooked smile. In another, Evelyn carried a pie and held the leash of their old dog, who now followed May like a guardian angel with fur. Sometimes, in the deep hours of the night, Evelyn would still wake with a start, her breath caught in the middle of an old memory, and Calder, without words, would sit up beside her boots already on rifle by the door, just in case. Not because he thought evil would return, but because love shows up when memory does. It listens, it waits, and it never tells the wounded to get over it. May, too, had her quiet shadows. Loud voices still made her flinch. Closed doors still sent her looking for open windows. But she smiled more often now. She hummed while helping Evelyn measure flour, and when she handed out slices of warm bread to passing travelers or neighbors, she did so with both hands, offering more than food. One Sunday, they returned to town. The preacher nearly dropped his Bible when he saw Evelyn and May standing at the back of the chapel, Calder behind them with his hat in hand. They sat quietly during the service, May curled between them like a wildflower planted in the pew, and when the final hymn faded and whispers turned toward them, Evelyn met the gaze of the town with her chin high and shoulders straight. Some folks didn't speak, some still whispered, but others reached out offering coats, sugar help with the fence. One woman asked May her name. The girl didn't hesitate. "May Rose Harper," she said. "I live out by the cottonwoods, with my mama and my papa." And just like that, the wind turned gentle. Because peace wasn't something they found, it was something they chose. Every day, with every sunrise, every touch, every truth. And this time, no one could take it from them. If this story stirred something deep in your heart, we invite you to subscribe to Whispers of the West, a channel where forgotten voices, quiet heroes, and hauntingly beautiful frontier tales come to life. Here, every whisper carries the weight of survival, redemption, and love that defies silence. Join our growing community of story lovers who believe in the power of emotion over spectacle. Don't forget to like, share, and turn on the bell so you never miss a whisper.